Hi guys, welcome to another session of news in 30 minutes. Today, let us look at some of the important issues on 14th of December 2023. Let's get right to that. The first issue is GPAI. Member countries adopt New Delhi Declaration on AI. Okay, what do you mean by GPAI? GPAI is Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence. As you can see here, it is known as Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence. It has unanimously adopted this New Delhi Declaration. It has unanimously adopted the New Delhi Declaration, which is adopted by 28 countries on harnessing new opportunities and mitigating the risks arising from the development, deployment, and use of AI. Okay, so let me just give you a background of what this is all about. If you take the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence, the GPAI Summit 2022 happened in Japan, and the GPAI Summit 2023, that is this year, it took place in India in New Delhi. Okay, now why is this 2023 summit become very important? Why is it that the entire world is looking to this particular event? Is because this line is pre-chat GPT era and this is post-chat GPT era. Okay, so until chat GPT came, everyone did not actually realize the potential as well as the armor that artificial intelligence possesses. The potential, the strength and the vulnerabilities that it creates is something that we got to know post the chat GPT era. The power that it harnesses, the utility that it has, and the vulnerabilities that it creates was realized post this summit. Hence, this 2022 summit had no significance because not much discussions were done. However, in this 2023 summit that happened in India, New Delhi, it was very significant for the world to come together so that they can develop some type of standards in regulating artificial intelligence. So on this behalf, there is this global partnership on artificial intelligence becomes very important. Okay, so basically this involves a group of 28 countries plus European Union. Okay, and what is this all about? It is about understanding. It is all about understanding the impact of AI. Okay, so the main goal of GPAI is understanding the impact of AI, and by understanding the impact of AI, we can regulate the AI ecosystem better and we can develop standards that the entire world can then replicate. Okay, the standard regulatory framework can be developed with the help of the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence. Okay, so that is the entire aspect or the purpose behind the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence. Okay, so in the 2023 summit, that is the GPAI summit that took place in New Delhi, we came up with something called New Delhi Declaration. Okay, and the reason why New Delhi Declaration becomes important is because one, we came up with something called we will promote AI, but this AI should be trustworthy. We will promote AI, but this AI should be trustworthy. The AI must be responsible. The AI must be sustainable. And finally, the AI must be human centric. If the AI is trustworthy, responsible, sustainable, and human centric, then we are going to support that AI. That is the first aspect of New Delhi Declaration. The second is they have created something called Global Challenge to build trust. Global challenge to build trust in the age of generative AI. This generative AI is a term that is very important. You have to know this. Generative AI is a concept wherein an AI can perform a job beyond a particular section or sector. Okay, if an AI can do a job in general across different sectors, it can transcend frontiers. If it can transcend frontiers, then that is known as generative AI. Okay, and this generative AI is very dangerous. So in order to build trust in the age of generative AI, this body is created Okay, and this body includes the members of OECD, it includes the members of GPAI, and also it includes the member of UNESCO. So all these institutions are coming together along with AI Commons. There is another institution called AI Commons with high triple E. So all these are coming together in order to build trust in the age of generative AI. This is another initiative that has come out because of New Delhi Declaration. And the last part of the New Delhi Declaration is in order to mitigate concerns regarding the following things. In order to mitigate concerns regarding one, misinformation, second, disinformation, okay, the third is lack of transparency, the next is protection of intellectual property, the next is threats to human rights as well as democratic values. Okay, so these things which are becoming very vulnerable due to artificial intelligence, these things are also being taken care of. Okay, so in a way the New Delhi Declaration talks about three different dimensions. The one is it is going to promote artificial intelligence. It is not being inhibitive or restrictive in nature. It is for artificial intelligence. However, that artificial intelligence should be trustworthy, responsible, sustainable as well as human centric. It has also a proper framework to build trust, especially in the age of generative AI. Generative AI is an AI that can transcend any frontier. It need not be specific to one section. It can perform actions in different sections. Okay, such is known as generative AI, and to build trust in this, we have all these institutions coming together. And the third is it also addresses the concerns regarding the AI and its impact on the society. That can be misinformation, disinformation, lack of transparency, protection of intellectual property, threats to human rights as well as democratic values. Okay, so this is what is the New Delhi Declaration, that is the outcome of the second Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence Summit that was held in 2023. So India has definitely taken a role or a leadership role in creating this framework, and it is necessary that India maintains this momentum in the future summits as well, because as you know, India has always supported AI. However, it has to be human centric and responsible AI. Alright, so with this issue is done. Let us move on to the next issue. The next issue is regarding the trade and commerce. The next issue is regarding trade and commerce. As you can see in the headline, RoDTEP. Okay, this is a scheme that is launched in India, and USA and EU has slapped countervailing duties on 4 Indian goods because of this RoDTEP. Okay, so now let us understand what is the meaning of RoDTEP. Okay, so RoDTEP means remission of duties. It means remission of duties and taxes on export products. Okay, it is, as the name suggests, if you read the name itself, it will make sense to you. Remission of duties and taxes on export products. So if you are exporting some type of a product from India to other countries, let us say USA, now this product X will receive some type of remission on duties and taxes. Okay, so this action or this particular program was launched in the year January 2021, and it is set to proceed till it is set to proceed till the June of 2024. Okay, so from 21 to 24, this this scheme is set to be there, and the remission of duties will range from 0.3% to 4.3%. This is the remission of duties and taxes. Okay, and the remission of duties and taxes are given for agricultural sector as well as for manufacturing sector. Okay, so basically both agriculture and manufacturing sectors have been given the remission of duties and taxes, and also the main focus is employment oriented sector. The main focus is also been employment oriented sector. So in these sectors, the remission of duties and taxes are done. Now the next is the remission of duties and taxes includes central tax, state tax, local levies as well as embedded taxes. Okay, as well as embedded taxes. So these are all included within the RoDTEP. Okay, and it is said that India tells that this RoDTEP is WTO compliant or compliant. Okay, it is WTO compliant. That is, it is in lines with the rules of WTO. Okay. However, this is what is the information about remission on duties on taxes on export products. So this was basically launched by India in order to help boost its exports. It also to improve the Indian goods to become competitive in the outside market, and also to boost employment within India, especially in the export sector. Okay, so this is the reason why India has launched this, and India tells that it is completely fair and is in compliance with the rules of WTO. However, as you can see in the headlines, the US-EU has slapped countervailing duties on 4 goods in the pretext that India is giving this RoDTEP. Okay, now obviously it is up to the WTO now. Both the countries, India as well as USA, will go to the WTO to argue against this particular scheme, and there the adjudication body will take a call on that. That is there. But what you should know from your exam perspective is, what is this countervailing duty? Okay, and what is this countervailing duty, and how is it different from anti-dumping duty? Okay, so these are 2 duties that are within the ambit of WTO. WTO allows both countervailing duty and anti-dumping duty. Countervailing duty is also known as anti-subsidies duty. Countervailing duty is also known as anti-subsidies duty. So basically it is to offset subsidies. It is to basically offset subsidies made to producers. Offset subsidies made to producers by exporting country. Okay, when the exporting country will provide subsidies to the producers, then to offset this, target country will start putting more duty. For example, let us say there is a product X. This product X is going from India to USA. If USA feels that this X is being provided a lot of subsidies in India, then USA can apply countervailing duty on this product X, and that is provided in order to offset. That is provided to offset the subsidies that are provided in India, to make sure that this X is competitive as Y produced in India. Let us say that Y is a domestically produced product in USA, and because Y is losing its competitive edge, because X is becoming cheaper, a lot of people will go and buy X. So in order to make Y also competitive, what they do, they will increase the duty. They will put countervailing duty on X to increase its price. So what happens is, when they increase the price of X, X will also be same as Y with respect to prices. If Y is, let's say, 10 rupees and X is, let's say, 6 rupees, people will obviously go and buy X. So they will put countervailing duty to make sure that this also comes to 10. So X will be equal to Y, so that people can buy Y better. Okay. So according to USA, when this price is 6 is because 4 rupees is being given as subsidies by India. When 4 rupees is given as subsidies by India, the product here is sold as 6 rupees. So this becomes cheaper in USA. So USA tells that in order to offset that 4 rupees, I am going to put 4 more rupees as countervailing duty to make the price as 10. So this is what is countervailing duty. Countervailing duty is basically an anti-subsidy duty to offset the subsidies given by the exporting country to the producers. I hope you understood this. And the next is anti-dumping duty. Okay, so anti-dumping duty is basically levied on goods that are sold in the target country at excessively low prices. At excessively low prices they are sold. For example, let us say that there is China, and let us say there is USA, and let us say China is selling X in USA, and USA is also producing Y in USA. Okay, and Y is a phone and X is also a phone. If X is sold at 10 rupees and Y is sold at 100 rupees, now this becomes, look at the parity in the prices. There is no parity at all. X is very, very cheap compared to Y. Okay, but if you go to the same X and go to China and see how much they are selling, X is being sold for 90 rupees. Are you seeing this? X inside China is sold for 90 rupees, but when it comes to going to USA, they are selling the same X for 10 rupees. Now, when this is the case, you are purposely selling the product at excessively low prices, then what USA can do is, USA can say that they are selling it at so low prices so that they can dump this good into they can dump this good into USA, and in that pretext, they can put anti-dumping duty. Okay, so this is what is known as anti-dumping duty. It is basically done to prevent dumping of goods at excessively low prices. Okay, so this is basically done to win a competitive edge of a product over a particular country's production. Okay, so China usually does this, and this produces, or this creates a lot of comparative edge of Chinese products in foreign nations. So in order to stop that, anti-dumping duty is there. So these are the two important duties that are in compliance with WTO, that is allowed by the nations to use this whenever they feel that either a nation is giving excessive subsidies or the nation is trying to allow excessively low prices of sale of products in their country. Okay, so I hope now you understood what is the meaning of RoDTEP. EU slaps countervailing duties on for Indian goods. I hope this was helpful, guys. Let us go to the next issue of the day. The next issue is a very good case study that can be used in your GS2 for governance, case study that can be used for your GS4 for your empathy, sympathy, okay, and case study in GS2 again for your international relations, okay, and in your essay also regarding India and how it handles different migrant situations. Okay, so now coming to what is this particular article talking about, it tells end the uncertainty on the Sri Lankan refugees in Tamil Nadu. Okay, so basically what has happened is recently in the Madras High Court, okay, there was a case called Ganesan. Okay, there was a case that was called, let me just Ganesan versus Union of India, Ganesan versus Government of India and others. Okay, so this was the case, and in this Ganesan versus Government of India case, what was the outcome was, the Ganesan is a person who has been waiting for 40 years for the grant of citizenship. Okay, he has been waiting for 40 years for the grant of citizenship. Okay, and this person, Ganesan, is a person who came to India in 1990s. He actually came via an agreement that happened in 1982. What is this agreement? I will just tell you this in a bit. But let me just reiterate this. This Ganesan is an individual who has waited for almost 40 years for the grant of citizenship. And the Madras High Court, because the person has been waiting for so long, and recently because of some issues of disaster in Tamil Nadu, like floods, Ganesan was also not given a compensation for any type of damages, telling that he is not a citizen of India. So with regards to the Madras High Court, in the Ganesan case, has directed the officers, it has directed the officials in Tamil Nadu to treat Ganesan and his family members as Indian citizens. Okay, it has told the officials to treat Ganesan and his family members as Indian citizens. So to just reiterate the point, the Madras High Court recently in the Ganesan versus Government of India and others case has told that an individual who has waited for 40 years for the grant of citizenship should be directed to be treated as an Indian citizen, he as well as his family. Okay, now this shows two things. One, it shows judicial activism. And two, there is administrative neglect. Okay, yes or no? There is administrative neglect. Okay, so let us now decipher what exactly has happened. Now, what has happened is in August 1982, India and Sri Lanka. Okay, in August 1982, India and Sri Lanka will sign a bilateral treaty. They will sign a bilateral treaty, and according to this treaty allows repatriation of Hill Tamil people, or something called Indian origin Tamils, from Sri Lanka to India. Repatriation means going back. Okay, so this bilateral treaty allows repatriation of Hill Tamil people, that is Indian origin Tamil people, from Sri Lanka to India. So according to this treaty, when these people went back to India, these people were treated as Sri Lanka refugees, whereas according to this bilateral treaty, they had to be given the Indian citizenship. Okay, however, from 1982, whoever these refugees have gone to this particular India, claiming that Indian citizenship in accordance to that bilateral treaty, have not received the Indian citizenship. And the Madras High Court has pointed out that there are around 5,130 applicants in the court itself who are seeking IoT category, who belong to IoT category, who are seeking Indian citizenship. Okay, who are from IoT category who are seeking Indian citizenship. So IoT category means Indian origin Tamils coming from Sri Lanka. Okay, so the Madras High Court itself tells that there are 5,130 applicants who belong to the IoT category who are seeking Indian citizenship. They have not yet received it. And also the Madras High Court has pointed out that as of March 2023, all right, Tamil Nadu has 91,000 refugees. The Tamil Nadu has 91,000 refugees who are placed in 58,000 camps. Look at this. So this is again a huge number. Now the question comes, what about the human rights? What about their basic health? What about the administrative overlooking or administrative neglect, the lack of empathy on the side of officials, and the judicial activism, because these people are constantly being given citizenship once they approach the high courts, once they approach the judiciary. This also shows judicial activism. So these are some of the aspects that you have to analyze this case study. However, this is what has happened, and one such person who is belonging to the Sri Lankan refugee who had to get this Indian citizenship was Ganesan. So this Ganesan has waited for 40 years and yet not got the Indian citizenship, which the Madras High Court recently directed the officials to be Ganesan as well as his family to be treated as Indian citizens. So this is a very good case study regarding the treatment of the Sri Lankan refugees. Now to also just give you a background regarding migration or migrants and India. Okay, if I take India, see, India is constantly having a lot of in-migration, and this in-migration is mainly distressed migration. Okay, the reason is because the neighboring countries of India are in a type of political and economic turmoil, and this will usually result in distressed migration of people coming from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, as well as Sri Lanka. Okay, so this is a huge problem for India. As you saw recently, the Rohingya Muslims who have entered India because of the ethnic conflicts that they faced in Rakhine state of Myanmar. Okay, that is one of the examples of what India is facing. So basically what India has done is, India is not a signatory. India is not a signatory of 1951 convention. It is not a signatory of 1967 protocol. Now both this deals with migration or migrants, how their rights has to be protected. Though India is not a signatory of this, India has always respected principle of non-refoulement. India has always respected the principle of non-refoulement. Non-refoulement means you don't send them back if there is an harm for their life. Okay, so India has always respected a principle of non-refoulement. It is very, very evident during 1971 how India did not do it. It is very, very evident in current Rohingya crisis. It is also very evident during Sri Lanka crisis, where India absorbed the Indian origin Tamils. Okay, so India as such has always set an example in respecting human rights, in respecting the rights of migrants, though it has not signed these two conventions, because these two conventions unnecessarily places a lot of conditionalities on India, and it will also open up India to be investigated by foreign authorities. Hence, India has not been a signatory of these two convention and protocol. However, India has always upheld the principle of non-refoulement. Okay, one more thing what I want to bring to your point is, India came up with something called Citizenship Amendment. It came up with something called Citizenship Amendment Act 2019. According to the Citizenship Amendment Act 2019, it provided citizenship to prosecuted minorities. It provided citizenship to prosecuted minorities. These minorities can be Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs, Jains, Parsis, and Christians. Okay, it protected citizenship to prosecuted minorities who came from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. Okay, who came from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. Okay, however, this Citizenship Amendment Act does not talk anything about Sri Lanka as well as Sri Lanka refugees. That is something that you should know. Alright, so this is the overall picture of how migrants are handled in India. Alright, so what the author is telling in this particular article is, the center must adopt a proactive approach to resolve issues of Sri Lankan repatriates. That is, it must as much as possible as much as possible provide them the Indian citizenship. Also, it must talk with Sri Lanka and allow some people of this refugees to, if needed or if they feel like, they can go back to Sri Lanka to rehabilitate and resettle. So in that way, Indian government has to take up a proactive approach to overcome this problem of Sri Lankan refugees. Look at this. This is a huge number. And there are also 5,000 applicants waiting in the IOT category for Indian citizenship who have approached Madras High Court. So this shows human rights, basic health and shelter that is not given to them, administrative neglect, lack of empathy on the field of officials and politicians, and judicial activism that is saving these people. So this becomes an excellent case study for all these papers. It can be a case study for Sri Lankan refugees, or it can be a case study for migrant issues in India. All right. So this is about this issue. The last issue of the day is we have ended what we call as the COP28, and the COP28 has delivered something called Dubai Consensus. Okay, we have created something called Dubai Consensus. Okay, now before I discuss about Dubai Consensus, let me just tell you the outcome of COP28. Okay, so COP28 took place in UAE. Okay, and COP29 is going to take place in Azerbaijan, and COP30 is going to take place in Brazil. Okay, this is just a background. The next is in COP28, for the first time, global stock take was taken up, and this global stock take is basically measuring what is the outcome of all nations' nationally determined contributions. So it is basically a report card to check how the nations have performed in their nationally determined contributions which they have voluntarily declared. And when this report card was checked, it was noted that the reduction in emissions has taken place up to 5%. Up to 5%. All right. Now, no, I'm sorry. Let me just rephrase it. Global stock take is basically a report card to check the NDCs. All right, the NDCs that are voluntarily declared by the nations, and when these NDCs were noted and it was seen that if the same NDCs are continued, up to 2030, this will result in the reduction of 5% of emissions in 2030 compared to 2019 levels. Okay, if the same NDCs are continued till 2030, then the emission reduction will reduce by 5% of 2030 compared to 2019 levels. But IPCC says that if we have to keep the global temperatures below 1.5 degrees, if we have to keep the global temperatures below 1.5 degrees, then the reduction of emissions should be 43% of 2030. 43% in 2030 of 2019 levels. Look at this. Look at the huge difference that is. IPCC is saying we have to keep our 2030 target of reducing 43%. However, if we continue with the same nationally determined contributions of all the nations, the most optimized probability is we can reduce only by 5%. So this says that our global stock take has to increase our nationally determined contributions. That is, nations must do more. Nations must do more. Nations must commit more. If the nations do not commit more, then we will not be able to reduce our emissions by 43% in 2030 of 2019 levels. So that is the update regarding global stock take. Okay, the next, that is the first thing about COP28. So COP28 resulted in the first global stock take that happened. The second is it also advanced, the COP28 also advanced global goal on adaptation. Global goal on adaptation. Now this GGA, global goal on adaptation, was also included in the Paris agreement. This was also included in the Paris agreement in COP21. Okay, and this was neglected in all the previous COPs. But COP28 has advanced something called GG in adaptation, that is global goal in adaptation. Okay, this is basically to give more focus on adaptation along with mitigation. That is, until now we always treated mitigation as the most important aspect, but here GGA, that is the global goal on adaptation, says that we have to give 50% emphasis on mitigation, 50% emphasis on adaptation. So this is something that has again become more evident in this COP28, which has also taken the call on this. So whatever funding happens, if we have to fund our climate finance, the funding has to go for mitigation as well as adaptation with equal emphasis. That is the end goal. The next is COP28 also saw the coming off or the operationalizing of loss and damage fund. Now this damage fund, which was being discussed from the previous COPs, has now taken a operationalized structure. So that is again a good news. Okay, so this is one. Along with this, COP28 also saw declaration on UAE declaration on climate and health, that is linking the climate change with health. It also saw UAE declaration on agriculture, food and climate. That is one more aspect that we see in the COP28. One more thing that COP28, so the first is global stock take, the second is global goal in adaptation, the third is L&D fund, the fourth is declaration on climate and health, and the fifth is declaration on agri, food and climate. The sixth is it has set up what we call as under global decarbonization accelerator. Under global decarbonization accelerator, it has set up global renewable and energy efficiency pledge. Energy efficiency pledge. It has taken up this global renewable and energy efficiency pledge. Another thing that it has taken up is oil and gas decarbonization. Oil and gas decarbonization charter. This is another thing that it has taken up. Okay, in COP28. And the last outcome of COP28 that it has taken is Altera. This Altera is a $30 billion catalytic private finance vehicle. It is a $30 billion private finance vehicle that is sponsored by UAE, and this is the initial amount. From this, they plan to mobilize almost up to $250 billion. Okay, from this they seek to promote, to get more than $250 billion from mostly private enterprises in order to invest in global climate action. So this is something that is also started by the outcome of COP28. And then the eighth one is the global cooling pledge. That is also an outcome of COP28. Okay, so these are the 8 different things that have been come out from the COP28. So just to summarize, the global stock take has been taken. I just discussed in detail what is the stock take. It is, if we take the most optimal probability, we only reduce it by 5% in 2030 compared to 2019 levels. However, IPCC says if we have to keep it below 1.5 degrees centigrade, then we have to reduce our emissions by 43% in 2030 compared to 2019 levels. The next is we have also advanced the concept of GGA, that is Global Goal on Adaptation, which was taken up in Paris Agreement of COP21, which says equal emphasis has to be given to adaptation. It's not adoption, sorry, it is adaptation. Equal emphasis has to be given to adaptation compared to mitigation. The third is the loss and damage fund. The fourth is UAE declaration on climate and health, how both are interlinked. Then UAE declaration on agri, food and climate, how all these three are interlinked. And then you have the global decarbonization accelerator, within which global renewable and energy efficiency pledge was launched. Oil and gas decarbonization charter was also launched. And then we have an Altera, a private fund of around $30 billion that was created by the UAE, which plans to improve it to almost $250 billion. And the global cooling pledge to improve the investments in reducing cooling emissions, basically through cooling devices. So that is what is global cooling pledge. So these were some of the outcomes of COP28. Along with this comes the last, that is Dubai Consensus. Okay, the Dubai Consensus basically is a compromise. Okay, it looks like a compromise between developed nations and developing nations. It is a compromise between developed nations and developing nations. And what is this compromise? It tells that they have to see before. Let me just tell. It tells what is Dubai Consensus. The most important part of Dubai Consensus is we have to transition away from. Fossil fuels. We have to transit away from fossil fuels to achieve net zero emissions by 2050. This is what is Dubai Consensus. Okay, we have to transit away from fossil fuels so that we achieve net zero by 2020. Now, why do I say it is a compromise between developed and developing nation is in COP26. Okay, there was Glasgow. It happened in Glasgow, and this Glasgow dialogue told that we have to phase out coal. We have to phase out coal. Now, when all the developing nations told that why are you concentrating only on coal? What about petroleum and natural gas? Then in the COP28, now they have included petroleum and natural gas. Okay, they have included petroleum and natural gas. So now, basically, instead of telling phase, what they say is they are telling transition away from petroleum, natural gas and coal. So that is what the COP28 says. However, this is in order to win over the developing nations. This is what is done in order to win over the developing nations. Now, to win over the developed nations, what they have done is they have created something called transition gas. This transition gas is nothing but natural gas. They say that natural gas can be given some type of a support for all the countries that are transitioning from fossil fuel to renewable energy. So because transition should happen smooth, there has to be something in between that will help smooth transition, and that thing that is in between that helps smooth transition is this natural gas. So it is kind of giving now a little incentive for the developed nation also. So to summarize, Dubai Consensus talks about moving away from the fossil fuels so that we achieve net zero emissions by 2050. It is also told that all the nations should provide economy-wide, nationally determined contributions. Economy-wide, nationally determined contributions. Because new contributions are now accepted. The old contributions are done away and the new contributions are now expected. The next is, it also tells that petroleum and natural gas within the coal together has to be something that we have to transit away from. However, it tells there is a transition gas called natural gas which can be used by the countries to have smooth transition from fossil fuel towards renewable energy. So it kind of balances or compromises both developed as well as developing nations. And Dubai Consensus also terms deep regret for the developed nations for not mobilizing the fund from 2020 to 2025, which they had committed in 2009 that they will provide $100 billion every year from 2020 to 2025. Because this was not done, the Dubai Consensus tells that this is a deep regret. Okay, so these are some of the outcomes of the Dubai Consensus. So I hope you can make use of it. This can come from prelims perspective and from mains perspective. So I've covered from both the angles, and I hope today, because we are ending the COP28, whatever has happened in the last 1 week regarding COP28, I have constantly been updating you people with that. So I hope you have made a very good and well made notes on these things. Okay, so with that, I would like to finish this session. I hope it was helpful. If you like this session, please make sure that you like, share and subscribe, guys. Thank you for all the support and love, and I will meet you tomorrow. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.